And joining us now is Congressman Rich McCormick of Georgia, Republican. He is a supporter of Jim Jordan's. Congressman, thank you very much for being with us.
My pleasure.
Sir, let me start by asking you directly. Is Jim Jordan going to lose more than 20 Republicans today or fewer?
If you could guess that, you'd know how the stock market is going to react in the next week. It has been entirely unpredictable this entire time. If not Jordan, though, who? And if not now, when? We're all asking these questions. There's tons of people who have different opinions just inside of the Republican Party alone. Being able to predict this has been difficult from the very beginning, watching what happened with Scalise, what happened with McCarthy. These are unprecedented times, but we're hoping to get this done today.
So when you say get this done, there is now a plan, according to our reporting teams, for two things to be considered today if, in fact, Jim Jordan does not secure the speakership. So first, a vote on whether Jordan should be speaker. If enough Republicans approve him, then a resolution that could empower Patrick McHenry. What do you understand about the plan for considering that? And would you consider supporting expanded powers or potentially the speakership for Patrick McHenry, the temporary speaker, if Jordan can't lock this down today?
I've talked to Patrick McHenry specifically on this. He does not want that. He's absolutely resistant to that. So I doubt it would get conference-wide support. So I think that's dead on arrival. I really do. But like I said, we've had a hard time predicting what was going to happen next all along. The fact of the matter is, I believe that if Jim Jordan has momentum, that he will get it done sometime today. If he loses momentum, good chance we may be talking about two new candidates in the near future, and hopefully that will proceed very quickly. There's other members that say we're going to vote for Jim Jordan until this is over with, if it takes 13, 15 rounds, whatever. So that's a lot of opinions just from a few freshmen, let alone the whole conference, let alone the whole House. There's as many opinions as there are people right now.
Were you expecting that when you came to Congress here? I mean, how do you feel being at the center of this situation with literally, I mean, the Republican Party cannot govern itself, and it's left a major branch of government without anybody in charge?
Let's face it, both parties have some challenges. I think the Democratic Party is upside down on the border, on crime, on debt, on education. We have a problem which is sorting out who's going to lead the party forward.
They're running the Senate, without deposing their own leaders. I mean, they're running the Senate without deposing their own leaders, in fairness.
Yep, we have some issues, no doubt about it. Quite frankly, I thought it was ridiculous when we deposed McCarthy to begin with. The vast majority, remember, that was 8 people out of an entire conference. That was our rules changed, and that's what happened as a result. Nancy Pelosi wasn't disposed. Of course, she had to have a majority of her majority to do that. So we had different rules. We were trying to disseminate the power. It didn't work out well for us. It's spilled water. I think the only people who've had it worse than my freshman class is the class who went through both this and January 6th and COVID. So it could always be worse. But I'm hoping we are looking forward to better times.
I suppose that is fair. It could always be worse. So let me ask you about where you are here. You outlined several scenarios. If, in fact, Jordan's support softens here, are you committed to voting for Jordan 15 times, or are you potentially open to backing someone else?
Well, the conference will decide whether we continue to vote for Jordan. We won't have the option to vote for anybody else until we come to a conclusion on Jordan himself. So, of course,
well, you could always decide to nominate somebody else. I mean, that's always your prerogative.
Well, the nomination process, I don't believe is going to get better by me nominating somebody else. I think that just puts another fly in the ointment. We have to settle Jordan first, and then we can move on to anybody else who might be considered if that fails first. I'm going to do one thing at a time. I think like a Marine still.
Fair enough. Let me ask you a question, actually, based on that experience. You saw what happened with President Biden today in Israel. Obviously, the trip has been upended because of conflicting narratives around what happened at the hospital in Gaza City. The U.S. intelligence apparatus, the National Security Council, just put out a statement saying that they assess that the Israelis are not responsible for the bombing of the hospital. Have you learned anything in your capacity as a member of the Armed Services and Foreign Affairs Committee about this? And how would you assess the job that President Biden did on the ground today?
So in a very clear way, but not a classified way, we believe that it was a misfire by Hamas that caused the explosion. So I'm glad that happened, not from Israel, but it's a tragedy that Hamas uses human shields and they're suffering the consequences. That's where they do their armed caches and anything from temples to hospitals to schools. That's the way they operate. As far as President Biden goes, I don't want to make this a divisive issue. So I really think this is about unanimous support for Israel. I think it alarms me to see as much anti-Semitism in America as we're seeing for the first time in my lifetime, at least, the most anti-Semitic rhetoric and activity that I've ever seen. It's harmful to our cause. It's harmful to a very strong ally in that region, somebody who we're linked to from the 1948 establishment of that country. So I really think we have to be careful about educating the public on what's really happening rather than on talking points that aren't useful to what we're trying to accomplish.
When we're talking about American support for Israel, obviously at the very top of the priority list for Congress right now is the supplemental funding bill that we're expecting the White House to ask Congress to pass to aid Israel, potentially also to aid Ukraine. But obviously without a speaker, the House is unable to pass that. Considering the importance of that measure, do you think that you could support giving, for example, Patrick McHenry temporary powers to allow the House to get that done if Jordan can't lock this down today?
Today, I think is a little bit too soon to tell. We're literally going to go vote right now. As soon as I get up this interview, I'm going to stand up in my time and we'll select that. I hate to get over my skis, as we say, and address something before it happens. I don't want to be hypothetical. I don't want to speak before I see how the conference develops. Because it's so unpredictable, I don't want to make presumptions about how the conference is going to react and how we collectively make a decision. I do consider myself a very conservative guy, but also very much a team player who has a realistic view of how these things progress. I mean, I'm a military guy. I believe in mission accomplishment. I want to see how the field plays out so I can make the best decision possible when that time comes.
All right, well, that is fair enough. And I will say the fact that there is so much uncertainty and you're able to speak to that, I think helps us underscore the realities of the moment that we are facing. It's a very remarkable one in U.S. history. Congressman Rich McCormick, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you come back soon.
Thank you.